So today we're going to do a video on how to drive manual transmission in a Jeep Wrangler. First thing you do when you're in a manual transmission vehicle is you got to notice the differences between manual and standard. Of course, you have your gear shift right here. This is a 5-speed transmission, or newer vehicles have 5-speed and 6-speed transmissions with overdrive. If you have a 4 or 3-speed, you probably are driving an antique vehicle, like a old Jeep CJ or something. And you have the clutch pedal down here, which is on the far left, and that controls the clutch spring and the contact between your transmission and engine. Okay, so first thing you do when you're starting up a manual transmission vehicle is you put in the clutch all the way and you crank it. Now, before you disengage the clutch, you want to make sure that your stick is in the middle, and that is the neutral position. And you can kind of do that by jiggling back and forth, and you can let go of that that clutch without worrying about the vehicle rolling anywhere. Other differences is we have an e-brake here. Of course, in automatic transmissions you have your parking on your gear shifter, but it's right here. Another thing I think I want to do is explain how a manual transmission works compared to your automatic. Of course, your automatic shifts it by itself without you worrying about it by sensing the amount of revolutions per minute of the engine and power or whatever. It's automatic. Here, your transmission and engine are disconnected when you're in a neutral position, and you control how they're connected at different speeds through the stick shift and the clutch. Now, the clutch is the in-between between the transmission and the engine, and basically your pedal controls whether it's disengaged from the engine, or when it's all the way out, it's engaged if you're in a gear here. When your clutch is in, that means that your whole car is in neutral, no matter if this is in gear or not. Of course, you're going to press that in whenever you switch gears or whatever. And if this is in the middle, you can let go of your clutch at normal speeds, press it in, whatever, without worrying about it. Engage your clutch like this. Your transmission and engine are disconnected completely. And when you let it out, your clutch, your transmission plate and clutch plate are trying to connect with the engine at the same speed to make that shift in gear. So you got your spring plate on your clutch and your disc, and that's trying to connect with the disc on the back of your engine. Slowly make that connection and go through the drive shafts and make your differentials turn, which makes your wheels turn. Alright, so first thing you want to do when you're taking off in your manual transmission vehicle is you want to press in your clutch first and hold the brake where your car doesn't roll anywhere, and let off that e-brake. So we're still not rolling anywhere because our brake's on, you know, but put it in first, make sure your clutch is all the way in, and you're going to slowly let out on the clutch. Now you're going to start feeling your vehicle shake a little bit. That means that we need to, our engine's dying and we need to put a little bit more power to it. So while our clutch is being let out, we want to put on the gas just a little bit at the same time and kind of even out the power to the engine. So while we let out, we want to let on the gas a little bit. You feel that shaking. If it shakes a lot more, that means you need to give it a little gas, and now we're rolling. Of course, in most cars from the 80s and 90s, early 2000s, we have an arrow here that tells us when to upshift, or you can look specifically on the Jeep. It's around 2,000 RPM is when you want to shift down to second gear or any other gear. So our engine's telling us to shift up here with this yellow arrow, so we want to press in our clutch all the way, grab a hold of our stick and pull it down into second, and just let it out real slow, alright, while giving it a little bit of gas at the same time. It's easier to shift while you're already rolling, of course, because you're already moving and stuff. You're not worried you're at a stop. First gear is the hardest to get out of when you're starting to drive manual transmission. Alright, so we're just in second gear, but say you want to stop and you're just rolling up to a stop sign or a red light. You want to put your clutch all the way in and put in the brake. And of course you want to put your stick in neutral. That way you're able to let off the clutch. You don't want to hold the clutch pedal down at a red light or whatever if you're waiting for a while, because that causes unnecessary wear on the clutch. Alright, so again, while taking off, you want to have your clutch all the way in, put it in first, slowly let out on that clutch. And when the engine shakes a little bit, you know to give it a little bit more gas or it doesn't die. Just slowly let that out. Let that clutch out. Alright. And you want to shift up when your red arrow light indicates, or you hear the engine trying too hard. You just push that clutch all the way in, let off the gas, pull that down in a second, and let out the clutch. Give it a little bit of gas. And you don't want to give it too much gas. You'll know when you're doing that. Of course, you'll hear the engine trying harder and revving. A good point to make, I don't see on many videos on about driving manual transmissions, is when you're in a parking lot or something in first gear, you're still going a little bit too fast when you let the clutch all the way out and you're rolling, because there's cars around, you're going back and forth. You don't have to fully disengage the clutch to move the car in different gear. You can be in gear and you can let out the clutch a little bit while giving a little gas and just creep along, you know, while making sure it doesn't shake or anything. And my clutch isn't all the way out, it's just the clutch disc is barely touching the engine and giving that axles just a little bit of power to roll along, you know. So that's good, especially if you don't want to let out all the way. So if you see what I mean here, I'm letting out the clutch a little bit while giving a little bit of gas, and the clutch isn't out at all the way, and I'm still rolling. And that's good for crawling along in areas, or if you're doing off-roading or anything else like that, and you want to go at slower speeds while still maintaining power to that engine. Especially if you're stopping and going slow and stuff like that. And like I said, if you're in a parking lot. Alright, another issue with manual transmissions is how to stop or start going on a hill. Now, this is more difficult because you're going to be releasing the clutch faster and giving it gas a little bit faster, where you don't roll back into cars behind you, especially if they're really close to you up at a stop sign or a red light. So you want to make sure to be in first gear when you're on a hill, because you want that lower power and more torque to get up. Your engine will die on you if you're in a higher gear like second, or you know, you're probably not going to be on third, but it's not a good idea to take off in second gear. We have our clutch engaged and our brake engaged, and we're in first gear. So we're going to let off that brake when it's time to go. I want to release the clutch and give it gas a little bit faster, okay? So I released and I'm letting off, but I'm giving it more gas to have that more power. The car doesn't roll back. Of course, you'll know if your engine's about to die, because you'll feel that car shake. You'll feel your Jeep or car shake, and that means you need to give it more gas. Of course, as mentioned earlier. So as long as you remember those two things and know how to rotate between your feet, between that gas and clutch pedal, and not let your engine die by giving it just enough gas, then you'll be fine. Another point to make is if your engine stalls on you, which is going to happen at least a few times to you when you're new to driving stick, that's when your engine completely dies and you're going to be in a gear because you let off the clutch too fast. That's when your car starts shaking and you feel it give like that or jerk. That means your engine died because you engaged that clutch too fast. Don't freak out or panic. It's going to happen to you, especially probably you're going to be at a red light or a stop sign. If your car dies, just put it back into neutral here. Have your clutch engaged, your brake where you don't roll it. Just crank it back up and you'll be good to go. Put that up in first and take off. Alright, hope this video helped y'all out a bit, and it's easy for y'all to learn how to drive a vehicle like this. Hopefully hopefully there'll be some more Jeep videos to come soon.